Bonsoir. Bienvenue à cette lecture de double change. Ce sera une lecture bilingue ce soir avec des traductions faites pour l'occasion. Et nous avons 3 poètes. Ce soir, Bervin, Jérôme Mauche et Moschovakis. Et Anna est venue de New York exprès pour l'occasion. Donc merci à Anna. Et Bervin fait actuellement une résidence à Quai, à la Fondation Camargo. Donc elle est venue aussi exprès pour cette lecture. Et puis Jérôme Mauche est venu, je pense, du 7e arrondissement pour venir ce soir. Donc merci aussi à Jérôme. Voilà. Et donc d'abord, Anna Moschovakis va lire. Anna vient de publier un recueil de poésie qui est là sur la chaise. I have not been able to get through to everyone. Publié chez Presse cet automne. Et elle est aussi l'auteure de Blue Book, qui sera lu ce soir en anglais et en traduction par Jérôme Mauche. Et ça a paru d'abord à Presse en 2005. Et elle est aussi l'auteure de Independence Day Parade chez Sisyphus. Et elle a traduit du français en anglais Henri Michaud, Claude Quai, Blaise Cendrars, Théophile Gautier et Éphémère, parmi d'autres. Sa nouvelle traduction de Les fiançailles de Monsieur Hir de Georges Simenon paraîtra prochainement chez The New York Review of Books. Doctorant au Graduate Center de la City University of New York, elle a enseigné à Queen's College et enseigne actuellement au Presse Institute. Et elle est un des éditeurs de Duckling Presse. Donc, bienvenue Anna et sa traducteur ce soir, Jérôme Mauche.
Nous allons lire tous deux, alternativement, la partie centrale de son livre qui vient tout juste de paraître, qui donnerait en français donc le cahier bleu. Il y a trop d'arbres pour savoir quoi en faire. Je ne connais aucun de leurs noms avec certitude. Mon propre nom m'a accompagné depuis que j'étais très jeune. Je me rappelle le jour où j'ai appris à l'épeler avec certitude. Il y a des manières de distinguer des arbres les uns des autres. Ces distinctions semblent fixes, comme la différence entre les sexes. La façon dont je décris change les distinctions cependant. Elle semble devenir plus détaillée à mesure que je perçois plus de détails. D'abord, j'aperçois les feuilles, puis j'aperçois l'écorce. C'est une sorte de progrès ou progression. J'aperçois d'abord la couleur, puis la forme, puis la texture. Du moins, c'est ce qu'il me semble à la réflexion. La progression semble un concept moins problématique que le progrès. Je me demande si c'est parce qu'il ne suggère point la valeur. Je me demande pourquoi la valeur comme concept semble problématique. L'introduction de nouveaux concepts semble une progression, mais vers quoi? Les branches des arbres ne se prolongent vers rien, ou les unes vers les autres. La texture de l'écorce est faite d'une langue que je ne connais pas. L'écorce change d'apparence à mesure que je progresse vers elle. Une langue change d'apparence à mesure que j'apprends à déchiffrer ses caractères. Un caractère marqué par la différence n'est jamais déchiffrable avec certitude. un caractère marqué par la familiarité et déchiffrable avec une tendre certitude. La réflexion jette une lumière problématique sur le concept faux. La distance entre le concept faux et le concept certitude peut être changeable. La distance entre deux arbres reste constante à la base, mais pas entre les branches. Elle est par conséquent à la fois certaine et changeable.
Many people change their names. Afterward, they are not seen as different by most people. They may have private or public reasons for changing their names. They may change names to buck or bolster tradition, for example. The change may or may not, in fact, buck or bolster tradition. Some people change their sex. They may have private or public reasons for doing so. Afterward, they are seen as different by most people. Some traditions only become buckable with progress. Sex is a noun that can be both active and descriptive. A view of sunlight filtering through trees can seem corny or kitsch. Sex seems to retain the ability to be experienced non-ironically. This may be due to the doubling inherent in sex with another person. Irony may be inherent rather than apparent in this doubling. Heterosexual couples may experience a stronger, weaker doubling than homosexual couples. Couples in which one person takes on the other's name seem to be addressing this doubling. I wonder what that does for them. Name is a word that can be both active and descriptive. Like many people, I like hearing my name spoken during sex. A feeling of intimacy after sex can often be mutual and sincere. This can be true even in a setting of filtered sunlight. Intimacy is only possible because people are seen as different. My name comes from my father's side of the family. I sometimes wish I had a different name or no name at all. I sometimes imagine what sex would be like in a world without names.
Choisis le contexte. Quel contexte veux-tu? Les phrases sont dérangées dans la progression. Le choix est entre la plage et le bar. Les vagues sont à la fois apparition et décision. Une décision, quelle vague, peut précipiter la catastrophe. Une catastrophe peut vous envoyer victorieusement au bar. Choisis l'une d'elles, une pomme ou une apparition. S'il est injustifié, l'impératif semble prématuré. On dit d'une pomme que quelque chose la fait mûrir. On peut la voir mûrir contre son contexte. Le bar peut créer un arrière-plan de tentation. La pomme aussi a la tentation comme arrière-plan. Les apparitions rejettent sur le rivage de la différence. Dans la lumière filtrée du soleil, elles animent leur arrière-plan. Différents bars peuvent offrir différents contextes. Une catastrophe peut vous jeter dans l'un d'entre eux. La même plage peut offrir différents arrière-plans. Cette différence dépend de la progression de la lumière du soleil. Une plage obscure commence à ressembler à un bar. La ressemblance est une apparition basée sur la progression vis-à-vis du sexe. Si elle est injustifiée, la ressemblance peut sembler immature. De nombreux contextes de la progression vis-à-vis du sexe semblent banals ou kitsch. La plage et le bar en font partie évidemment. Le contexte culturel dicte certaines décisions. Elles prennent souvent l'aspect d'une apparition ou d'une catastrophe. L'arbre du progrès est vu comme enraciné dans l'immaturité sexuelle. Choisis une personne pour faire l'amour le plus souvent. Quelle personne veux-tu?
This is a real dream. The character of my experience is often uncertain. When my body is at the bar, my mind may be at the beach. The role played by the mind-body problem is both active and descriptive. The narrative of my life stems from nothing but my life. It is therefore both certain and changeable. Narrative is a concept with a problematic background. It laughs in a language I can't decipher with certainty. I once woke up laughing from inside a dream. There was somebody sleeping next to me at the time. My laughter seemed more real to that somebody than the dream. The dream seemed more real to me than that somebody. The balance of my experience shifted as my limbs tended toward him. I rarely remember the narratives of my dreams. Some people say antidepressant drugs cause vivid dreaming. They report perfect recollection of their dreams. I wonder if this means my dreams are faint or only my recollection. I rarely remember lived experience with certainty either. The concept of depression is seen as a sign of progress. The inventions of technology have made human memory less critical. Critical is a word that can be used in more than one way. The concept unconscious is inherent in many discussions of dreams. The concept agency is inherent in many discussions of life. I believe there are languages without names for these concepts. It is tempting to think these concepts are a sign of progress. It is equally tempting not to. Reality woke up laughing from dreaming these sentences.
La plupart des jugements ont pour origine des qualités en surface. Nous choisissons de passer du temps avec des personnes que nous aimons regarder. Le son de la voix de quelqu'un peut être sexualisant ou neutralisant. Les axes de la perception ne peuvent pas être cartographiés avec certitude. Certains voient la profondeur comme opposée à la superficialité. Ce concept peut être cartographié par un signe ressemblant à une croix. Le récit exploite souvent la distinction entre profondeur et surface. Une observation sur un axe sera précédée d'une observation sur un autre. Je m'interroge sur le point à l'intersection de la croix. L'ironie est inhérente à cette division de la perception. En tant que concept, il peut être cartographié comme un cercle tracé autour d'une croix. Dans la culture chrétienne, la croix est perçue comme un symbole de force. La force de la forme croix tient à son intersection. Sexe et amitié sont souvent perçus comme décroissants sur des axes différents. L'un peut correspondre à la profondeur, l'autre à la superficialité. On dit que le sexe avec un nouvel amant est comme la création d'un nouveau langage. L'amitié, comme l'amour, souvent se produit au premier regard. Les débutants dans une nouvelle langue se sentent limités à une expression superficielle. Leurs récits sont confinés au temps présent. Les temps simples peuvent être plus adaptés ou moins propices à la communication que ce complexe. « Je t'aime » est un constat à la fois simple et profond. Cette déclaration du sentiment se trouve dans la plupart des textes pour débutants. Comme concept, il est perçu comme non problématique. Dans les eaux, surface et profondeur se rejoignent à la surface. C'est parce que la surface est un plan, alors que la profondeur ne l'est pas. Les opinions se renforcent quand la raison et le sentiment interagissent. Une nouvelle langue tendra pour cela vers un caractère.
Chess is a game of temptation and uncertainty. Pawns and pieces tend towards certain behaviors. Their patterns are seen as falling on the axis of strategy. It is tempting to see human behavior patterns in terms of character. The relationship between strategy and character is uncertain. If axes, they must either be parallel or intersect. A strategic decision indicates a calculating character. Character is a word that can be both judgmental and descriptive. Most people rely on certain stock characters when making judgments. These characters are found in life, but also on television. The variety of programs on television makes choosing difficult. The variety of possible chess moves makes strategizing problematic. There are as many useless chess moves as there are useless television programs. An abundance of choices lends life and chess the character of confusion. This character can be impermanent, like a letter written in pencil. Equations that once were worked out in pencil are now solved with a calculator. This can make their solutions seem more certain. Not everyone is bad at arithmetic, though. Those who have a knack for arithmetic may or may not be good at chess. Stock characters on television are often either good or bad at both. It is tempting to judge this equation as superficial. Beauty is a criterion in the judgment of mathematics and chess. It can also be used to pass judgment on strategy. People don't usually call their decisions in life beautiful. Is this because pattern is implicit but not apparent in every decision? The rules of chess, once learned, recede into the background. Strategy crashes down on the shores of temptation.
L'intérieur partage une fenêtre avec l'extérieur. Parfois, il y a une imperfection à la fenêtre. L'imperfection peut tendre vers une tache ou une fente. Une fente tendra vers le bord de la fenêtre. Une femme dans le métro se penche sur la vitre. Comme beaucoup de personnes, elle lit un livre. Le titre du livre se reflète dans la vitre opposée à elle. Les imperfections dans un texte sont visées par la rédaction. Certains voient ce processus comme tendant vers la perfection. Les imperfections dans la vie sont visées par l'oubli. Quand les portes s'ouvrent, la femme lève les yeux de son livre. Elle semble regarder les gens qui entrent. Le titre du livre est « Se défaire du passé ». Le passé est souvent dit être vu au travers d'une fenêtre. Utiliser cette métaphore est courant dans les livres et la conversation. Une métaphore, quand elle est courante, peut tendre vers le cliché. En abuser, elle perd son caractère ironique. Dans certaines langues, le passé est nommé l'imparfait. Le parfait et le futur antérieur existent aussi dans ces langues. Je me demande si c'est un commentaire sur le progrès. L'ironie est qu'avec la perfection, le progrès s'arrête. Le sous-titre du livre est « Apprendre à vivre dans le présent ». Je me demande si la femme a appris du livre. Je crois qu'il y a un futur parfait que j'ai oublié. Son existence servirait à discréditer ma théorie. La femme lève les yeux pour me regarder entre les passages. Quand la lumière vacille, la vitre disparaît.
Someone once said, "The world is random by design." I believe this happened in a conversation about coincidence. It is likely that the conversation is one I had with myself. Such conversations can take on the character of a dream. Gambling is an activity that takes on the concept of chance. There are usually rules to govern the gambler. The rules are designed to give chance a certain background. Often a game of chance is actually fixed. A fixed game wears an invisible character of certainty. Invisibility can coincide with or diverge from transparency. Transparency in language is often seen as pro-meaning. Thus, a word and its response are seen as a progression. Words out of sequence can result in confusion. This is because their progression can't be justified with certainty. Sex acts often follow a preordained pattern. This pattern can be frustrated by the mind-body problem. The body's unpredictability is seen as different from the mind's. This difference forms the background for our sexual behavior. My tendency is to look for hidden meaning in chance events. It's easy to see a coincidence as either superficial or deep. It is tempting to think choosing between these interpretations is necessary. It is equally tempting not to think so. I cut my finger on a letter from a new lover. I wondered if this meant that our relationship would hurt. Like language, love plays against a background of rules. I said, love is a gamble, and it took on a character of cliché. Sex between two people contains a kind of coincidence. Its meaning is both certain and changeable. Merci d'être venu. J'allais lire encore un poème s'il y a du temps. Mais j'écris des poèmes qui sont assez longs, donc ça va durer à peu près 10 minutes. Ça va? Et c'est en anglais. It's in English. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Jérôme. I realized as we were reading that I completely, when we were just trying to edit the translation, that we completely reversed some terms somewhere in there. But c'est pas grave. My life in violence, or death as a way of life. It began. 1. Life is not fair. 2. How can I be happy while others suffer? 3. How can I not be happy while others suffer? 4. Others will suffer whether or not I am happy. 5. It is not the suffering of others that causes my happiness. 6. It is not the not suffering of others that causes my unhappiness. 7. The not suffering of others would not prevent my happiness. 8. I have been attracted to the idea that naming is a form of violence, but does that mean we should go around calling everyone, hey, you, which seems like another sort of violence, even though it is a way of recognizing the other as other? What can be said on this point? Ancient man, and we have ample evidence of this, used to drive whole herds of animals over cliffs when the individual beasts were too formidable or too fast to handle, an admirable technique with a dubious result. In 1755, Louis XV assembled 13 hunters for an 18-day excursion. Among them was a lady named Princess Charlotte, who fired 9,010 shots to the king's 1,000. They returned with 19 stags, 18,243 hares, 10 foxes, 19,545 partridges, 9,499 pheasants, 114 larks, 353 quail, 454 other birds, for a total 48,237 killed. The carcasses came home in bags, the nobles came home drunk. I want to know about the other birds. Were they species unknown to the hunters, or insignificant birds not worth noting by name, or mutilated beyond recognition by the princess, an obviously staunch lady? Then there's the Jewish thinker Emmanuel Levinas, who wrote about violence and the other, who once reminded me of Emmanuelle Béard in her role as La Belle Noiseuse, in which she is in the nude most of the time, an object for art, some would say violence. But think of noiseuse and its origin, could be noir or nuire, a verb meaning hurt, or noise and its uses. When I first saw the film, I thought it meant hazelnut, but the French word for hazelnut is when noisette and noiseuse, it turns out, is a person who likes to pick a fight, a gadfly. Emmanuel Levinas was a gadfly too, though not only when naked like Emmanuelle Béard, and he didn't have art in his name like she does. He didn't have philosophy or ethics either, or even or especially theology. The theologians is an attractive phrase, sounds laughable, but with an underbelly, like all my subjects. It also reminds me that the words theology and logic are related by the root word log, and that when I was young, a log was a bridge that got you safely to the other side. Man dies in excess, but not naturally, for in all his genius, he is still to find a better way to solve his differences than that used by his ape-man ancestors. And so the log becomes a weapon, the weapon afloat to fight over. Competition, the spice of life. When I was young, I was a gadfly too. There are no theologians in my family, my ancestors held by a string to the map. To master death does not simply mean to remain one's master in the face of death. Tell this to the unnamed birds, creatures of appetite fulfilled, death's true masters, teaching men and princesses to be gods. Or to the nameless Flemish painter, the master of winter landscapes, and his countless paintings called Winter Landscape, or In the Face of Death. Or should it be Death as a Way of Life, the title of a book published in hardcover the year of my birth, 1970, 6 years before the country turned 200 and my brother got stitched in his chin. In 1970, humans are listed as the only major factor in the endangerment of the red wakari, bald wakari, black-headed wakari, and 39 other mammals, including the pigtail longer snow leopard and giant armadillo. but hunters are not to blame for everything. We wonder at our shifting capacities, keep adding and striking skills to the bottoms of our resumes under constant revision, like the inscriptions on tombs shared for generations, unnervingly up to date. Made nervous by our shift in capabilities, we write, I visited a country where kittens lay dying under every bench in every gutter next to every cigarette butt. 1 made me weep, 2 made me worry, 3 made me look away. I visited a city with very few strays. The first one I saw, I adopted. What could it mean? Posted by Sarah, 6/18/06. Hit publish and look away. The new violence. I visited a country where everything looked like home. There is a stag on the stage, played by a boy who likes to dress like a girl. The hunter pulls on his antlers, making him cry. The audience explodes. There is a bomb on the stage where the boy takes revenge, undone, climbing the ropes to the rafters, peeing on the scrim. The hunter pisses her pants before dying. There is a stage on the stage, we know. My own chin was stitched in 2004 by an Inuit girl with bangs, a stitch in time, I thought, at her thick black braids. We know we need to be sensitive to the other's right to kill. Let the Inuit hunt their whales, don't pack bumper stickers in the boxes of baseballs. The stage is a diamond with home in one corner, our sliver of heaven. I am mad about shooting birds and animals. It's the nearest thing to heaven in human terms that I know. Right Reverend David Cashman, Roman Catholic bishop, circa MXIII. In the 1850s, a 7-shot Victoria revolver cost $2.50. Victory is cheap, they say. With 7 bullets, you could shoot a woman in both breasts, both ovaries, her vagina and clitoris, with 1 bullet left for a target of choice. Somebody may have done this or imagined it before. I've imagined worse, and so have you. Posted by Rick, 6/19/06. Revenge is dear. Dear reader, don't take yours now. Man dies, that is nothing. But when a woman sits on the edge of her bed in front of a window and lets down her red silken hair, threading it through her delicate fingers as it cascades in waves down her porcelain back, which reflects the moon's silvery mood, so that any man privileged enough to catch a glimpse of her falls directly to his knees, blind, lost, panting for breath, choking on words he can't pronounce, starving for familiar phrases he can no longer retrieve from their world of abstraction, now that the real thing is manifest before him, so that he vomits up his lunch, his excellent breakfast, and the previous night's dinner, disgusted with anything he saw fit to consume before setting sight on this morsel of perfection, and lies there in half-crazed ecstasy for 3 days and 3 long nights, without food or water, his senses damaged to the point of extinction, until he is on the verge of death and the moon's high silver has fallen to dust, and nobody can help him, so nobody tries, and the woman is gone, and her hair is gone, and her porcelain back is gone, and her slender fingers, and even her image is gone, and still he has no regrets, and he welcomes death, invites it, knowing as he's never known anything before that his life wants for nothing. Now that is something. Heaven, a sliver. An interesting question to ask here, I think, concerns the nature of sentimentality. Is the man, read person, that says, "Take down the gallows," essentially the same man who says, "Thou shalt not kill beasts for kicks"? We don't know yet. Generally, the hunter tends to be more pragmatic than the anti-hunter. Is the person, read person, who sits in a chair while another person administers an injection that causes the first person to slump over, blind, lost, panting for breath, and vomit up lunch, breakfast, and the previous night's dinner with nobody to help and nobody trying, until death emerges as a singular desire, the only way out of a worsening situation, a heaven of its own, generally speaking, less sentimental than the other person who did the administering? And is that other person generally more pragmatic and less sentimental than the persons who look away or, while eating tonight's dinner, at the TV? The first reliable gramophone, the infamous Victor Victrola, won a patent war in 1901 and cost a great deal more than $2.50, even adjusting for a half-century of inflation. Music, dearer than murder, dearer than blood. What does a grammar kill? A poet posted 6/20/06. My ancestors held by a string to the map, in other words, literal beyond belief. Vladimir Ilyich Lenin erected a museum to atheism inside a grand church that has since been rehabilitated. So a museum can't kill a church. So atheists can't kill a church. We know that the worship of science, logic, art, law, political theory, fresh fruit, philosophy, conversation, Yosemite National Park, a woman's right to stick to her plan, olives, justice, and higher education can't kill a church. What can a grammar kill? Death is the moment when time stops, the moment when everything happens, a literal beyond. Grammar can kill time. What can a poem kill? Bonnie Parker excelled at creative writing before her young husband was sent to jail. When she met Clyde Barrow, she had left her Shirley Temple impersonations behind. Although she was only 4'11", she could run with the best of them. This is wrong, but the right idea. We want to know how to talk about that haunting first shot and the haunting last shot. We know the story of Bonnie and Clyde, but we forget it was Bonnie's poem that killed Clyde's sexual problem. It was Bonnie's lyric narrative poem that made him a man, that made him live and let him die. That was in the film version. In the real-life version, Bonnie Parker may not have been nearly as cruel as in the film version. In the real version, Clyde Barrow may have been much crueler. Bonnie was as stylish as Faye, but not as beautiful. Clyde was maybe not as dopey as Warren. Was the sex when it happened finally more awkward in the real-life version or in the film version? No scene in the real version could possibly live up to that haunting first shot, that haunting last shot. It is said that man experiences his world. What does that mean? Man travels over the surface of things and experiences them. He wins what belongs to the things. Things don't die. Why should you? Should you die for your family, for your gods and dreams? Should you die for smoking? Should you die for poetry? I'm not thinking hard enough. I'm not feeling hard enough. I've never closed my fist against anyone. I can imagine a situation in which I would die for atheism, even if it weren't my own. Would I die for logic, if my death would make the world follow? Things don't follow. Would I die for that? Posted September 12th, 2006. We travel over things and experience them. We win. Hey, Louis Cans, what's the score? Hey, staunch princess, how come only 10 foxes came home in bags? Do they hide in their holes for the sake of their name? Do they work that hard to live up to their reputation? Merci.